Guys, I'm back again today with another reaction video, and today we're reacting to the US military is everywhere by Johnny Harris. So we're gonna see why and how is US military everywhere. I've noticed that like back in the day we used to have like the US base in the Philippines. When I went to Japan we had US base as well. Like they're everywhere, to be honest. But anyways, let's see. Before we do start, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Click that bell button to get notified whenever I do upload a video. Anyways guys, let's check this out.
Imagine a world where the most powerful country on earth in 2021 wasn't the United States, but rather Spain.
Oh.
And instead of setting up military bases just in their own country, they also set up bases all around the world. Lots of those bases are in former colonies, but also there's a bunch in the United States. Just imagine this. You zoom into Fayetteville, North Carolina, and you see a huge military base. But it's not a US military base, it's a Spanish base on American soil, with lots of homes for the Spanish soldiers and their families, powerful weapon systems, aircraft, all run by the Spanish military. Go inside of one of these bases and it's all Spanish restaurants. Americans can't come in here unless they work for the Spanish government. And then imagine 100 more of these, all throughout the United States on American soil, and hundreds of more throughout the world. Or shift the scenario a little bit. What if it was a country that wasn't our ally? A country like China. What if they had military bases, not in the US, but right up?
Ooh, that would be like cray. You have to like always watch your back and sleep with one eye open.
Close to our border. Powerful weapon systems right off our shores in islands in the Caribbean. If you're an American, you have to imagine what that would feel like. If you're not an American, it's likely you already kind of know what this feels like. The United States has an extensive network of military bases outside of our borders. Hundreds of bases. I've been fascinated for a very long time about understanding U.S. foreign bases abroad, but I've never actually taken the time to accurately map them. So let's do it. Let's map every single...
That is an interesting idea. I'm glad somebody did, because now I'm curious. Now that he has put that thought in my head, I'm really curious to see how many bases there are in the world. I mean, U.S. military base. Damn. Guess in the comments, guess.
U.S. military base around the world. It turns out that's a huge task.
This is the story of the men of the United
It's a huge task. How long did it take?
This is a full armored division. To give you an idea of size, each of those small dark squares includes more than 1,000 men.
The United States military is bigger than any of us can really fathom. It's so big that even the U.S. military doesn't know how big the U.S. military is. Back in 2018, 1,200 independent accountants and analysts came in to try to audit the U.S. Department of Defense. Basically try to get like a paper trail of how big this thing is, how much money it spends, etc. And the Department of Defense didn't pass the audit. Like they literally did not have the documents or the knowledge to really piece together a full scope of what this organization is, how big it is, how much money it spends. So we don't know. Nobody knows how big the Pentagon is in all of its forms. All we do know is that objectively, it is one of the, if not the largest and most powerful organization on the planet and in the history of humanity. I mean, if you have a organization that's more powerful than the Department of Defense in the history of humans, like, let me know. I want to know about it. But as far as I can tell, there's nothing bigger and more powerful than the United States military in 2021. And much of the U.S. military is not actually in the U.S., but is actually outside of our borders, all around the world.
This post is somewhere in Germany.
U.S. is smart. They're so smart. Whoever came with the idea, like, let's put our military bases outside, they're smart. They're doing the smart game. It's like making allies, kind of, right? Allies with those places or countries And also watching your ass, like you're watching your ass. So if something happens, you have your military to fight in different corners of the world before you I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but you guys get it.
Overlooking the
Do you?
center of the Iron Curtain.
One of the first things that Joe Biden and his administration did when they came into power a couple of weeks ago down the road was ask for an assessment of how big is our military presence around the whole world? What is our strategy? And what actually does this presence look like?
The department will conduct a global force posture review of U.S. military footprint, resources, and strategies.
Footprint. I like that. That's like a nice thing. Like, what's our footprint? How big is our footprint around the world? We don't really know. The Pentagon is going to start to try to assess that. So let's help the Pentagon out and try to map every single United States base around the entire world. Let's do it. It wasn't too long ago when I used to think that having military bases in other countries was totally normal. Like, doesn't every country have like military bases in other countries? Yeah. Anyway, this was sort of reinforced for me when I was in college. I did an internship at NATO, with the headquarters of NATO, which was in Brussels. To get this job, I had to get a secret security clearance from the US government in order to enter the military base, which was NATO. This was really cool because there was always like people coming through NATO that I got to meet, like my diplomacy hero Madeleine Albright, who used to be the Secretary of State.
Oh, we have an ad.
This guy.
Joe Biden.
How to make your videos easier to find on YouTube. How to get more views. How to attract...
Representing my country abroad for the last 37 years.
Good old Joe. Hey Joe, had no idea you'd be president someday. Anyway, the big benefit of having this secret security clearance is that I could go into any military base anywhere. And so on Saturdays, I would drive an hour from Brussels to a little village in the Belgian countryside where a military base had been sort of plopped down in the middle of the Belgian countryside, in between like stone walls and quaint streets and sheep and farming plots. Yeah, it's a little blurry in this map because it's, a military base, and sometimes they blur the satellite imagery. Nothing I can do about it, sorry. And as soon as I entered into the base, went through all the security, and I was in the base, I felt like I had left Belgium and was suddenly entering suburban America.
It's true. It's like, it's different. When you go to the base, it's different. Like, imagine you're supposed to be in Japan, let's say, and you've seen how Japan is. And then when you enter the base, you're like, wait, excuse me, what happened to Japan? I just stepped into this place and now Japan just disappeared, because there's a lot of Americans. There's a lot of people in uniform, and also the restaurants and everything is just American. Even the portion size are American.
Welcome to the United States. There was a Taco Bell and movie theaters with American movies and all sorts of shops and like yoga studios and like a grocery store that had all of the products that I was very used to, all at the same price as I could get them in the United States, even though they had been...
Oh, very true. That's why my mom used to like buy appliances or most of the things at the base, because it was cheaper. I feel like there are no taxes, right? In the bases. I don't know in the States, you guys, with your tax, but when you go to the base, there are no tax. And I think because Guam has, I'm not so sure of the statistics of Guam, but because of the military based in Guam, they have no tax for the whole country, because the country is just small anyway. So yeah, and it's just mostly military people.
Flown across the Atlantic and brought to this place, which is a very expensive
It's crazy.
thing to
America
do.
is
It was
doing
a dream
something.
for me as a poor college kid living in Brussels and feeling a little bit homesick, to be honest. I hadn't really figured out culture shock at this point, so yeah, I kind of loved it. And it was, again, sort of like doesn't everyone have military bases in other countries and they can sort of just go to their military base? And it was just, I was so naive.
I wish.
Alas, I've learned the truth.
I'm still waiting for him to tell us how many. Oh my god, that looks a
Luckily,
lot.
I was able to talk to somebody who literally wrote the book on U.S. military bases abroad.
Most U.S. bases abroad look like not so small U.S. towns.
Over the years, David has been researching and compiling a database of all the U.S. bases around the world. The result is a very detailed audit that hasn't really ever been done to this degree. In fact, a few years ago, the Pentagon's own research arm, the RAND Corp, was doing some research on military bases abroad. And instead of using the Pentagon's list of U.S. military bases abroad, these guys used David's list. Like, they used David. He's a professor. He's like an anthropologist. He's not like a part of DOD. And yet they're like, this list that he made is actually more authoritative than like the Pentagon's own list.
I mean, I'm sort of honored, but it's not a good sign if the Pentagon research arm is using my list and not the Pentagon's own list.
So I got a hold of David's list and started wrestling with the data and finding a way to display it on a map so that I could get every single base to show somehow. After a few weeks of doing this, I finally have a map. And that map looks like this.
Oh, wow. Europe, there's a lot in Europe.
Every dot on this map is a U.S. military base or installation of some sort in a different country.
Yep, Africa.
Many of these dots are not placed exactly where the base is because many of these
we do have in the Philippines, but is it function? Oh, actually, I'm so dumb. Yes, the one in Subic is actually functional. The one here in my city is the one that is not functional. So yes, we do still have US bases in the Philippines. Da-da. Okay. There's a lot. Japan, Korea, Guam, Philippines. Oh my gosh.
bases are clustered in areas, and if I tried to map them all in the exact spot where they really are, they would all just sort of stack on top of each other, and you wouldn't really be able to see them. But these dots represent every single base outside of the United States, from huge complexes the size of Rhode Island to small airstrips, little facilities that only house American drones or radar or supplies. This is all of them, and at least all that we know of. And if you look at this map and you see a base that you know of that is not here, or one that is there that doesn't belong there, tell me about it. I want to know.
I wouldn't even know.
This is sort of hard information to ascertain. The Pentagon is not very transparent, and neither are host countries about where certain bases are and why they exist.
Many of the bases around the world are their existence is due to an agreement between the two countries that is often not open to the public, that is secret.
Any errors here are mine and not David's. All in all, the number here is about 750. 750 U.S. military bases, big and small, outside of the United States. By outside of the United States, I'm including U.S. territories that are not equal to the United States, like Guam, Puerto Rico, etc. But in reality, we probably don't know the real number because that data just simply is not transparently available to us. There are a couple major clusters here where the most bases exist. One major one is Germany, and the others are Japan and South Korea. These are basically holdovers from World War II and the subsequent Korean War, when the U.S., who won the war, came in and occupied these countries in order to set up a new government, write a new constitution, and to help the post-war transfer to a new government. But what's most interesting to me aren't these clusters that came about because of World War II, but instead the far-flung, sort of unexpected or little-known places that the U.S. military has a little footprint. Like all the dots in Africa, which if...
That was shocking to me as well. I didn't even know that they would have bases in Africa, which is interesting. You know what? US is doing smart moves. I'm kind of like very impressed and very sad that we are not doing stuff like this, or any other country is not doing stuff like this, right? Like this is some That's why you guys are leading.
Popped up in recent years as the U.S. has expanded its presence there.
Oh, that's
These
beautiful.
are usually
Africa,
small
yes.
installations that hold maybe a few soldiers or mainly private citizens who are government contractors. And they mainly house things like drones or radar or weapon systems. You also have this cluster of dots deep in the Indian Ocean, which is the island of Diego Garcia, which I've talked about at length, about the US military's role in displacing hundreds of local people to set up a base there. Some of these dots are just airstrips, a runway in the middle of nowhere. And these runways usually belong to the host country, and the US just rents them for a period of time. Like this facility in the middle of the desert in Oman. Places like this exist to hold supplies in case a war breaks out. So the US maintains these stockpiles of war supplies all around the globe so that they can strike at any point without having to ramp up a war economy at home. It takes
smart.
away a lot of the friction from going to war.
It made it easier for the U.S. military to launch offensive wars. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were easier to launch because the U.S. has maintained a huge infrastructure of bases.
Some of these dots don't represent a place where US soldiers are actually stationed, but instead it represents where money from the Pentagon has gone to influence or build up infrastructure. For example, in Iceland, the US is spending a lot of money, tens of millions of dollars, to upgrade this airport, the airport that we all go through when we're going to Iceland, but doing it for military purposes so that the US can use it, can land there if needed. So next time you land in Iceland on your way to the Blue Lagoon, just know that you're passing by one of these little dots.
Okay.
Over here in the Azores, these islands that are owned by Portugal, nearly 2,000 kilometers away from any landmass, there is a group of US military installations mainly used for refueling and weapon storage. Head up here to Greenland and you'll see a little base way up high, the most northern base in the world where 140 Americans live. Kind of looks interesting. I'd love to go there someday. Way out here in the Pacific, you've got loads of remote military bases owned by the United States. They're mainly small airstrips, like this base on the southern tip of this huge atoll of the Marshall Islands.
Wow.
All right, listen, I'm not...
That is a beautiful island. It's just like this. It's just like a straight, how do you call this? Outline. And that is the island. What? That is amazing. I love watching this kind of videos. You just learn random things and very, informative things as well.
I'm not going to explain every single base. There are 750, maybe 800. There's a bunch of bases. I just wanted to give you a flavor of what some of these look like. They're diverse. They're all over the place. And they're fascinating to me. I have been compiling accounts of people who live next to U.S. military bases. I have over 100 accounts from people that, for my call out on Instagram, I want more. I want to make an entire video about life next to a base. And that is why I'm calling upon all of you. I'm going to put a link in my description to like a survey. It's like a form of like what it's like to live next to a U.S. military base. I have it right here. And I'm going to be checking it. You can fill out this form, and then I will get your response, and I will read through your response, and I will use that to construct an understanding of what life is like next to a U.S. military base. I talked to David a bunch about this too. He's done a bunch of research, done a bunch of interviews, and I want to keep talking about this. So, if you don't live next to a military base, I want to hear from you, like, what are your thoughts about this? Whether you're an American or not an American, like, does this seem right? Does this seem like the right choice, the right thing for our taxpayer money to be going towards? I'm still making up my mind on a lot of this stuff, and I want to start a discussion. My goal in this video was to just map it, was to just look at it, be able to see it on a map. And I've finally done that. By the way, there will be a high-res version of this map on my Patreon for patrons who sign up for the map background tier. That will be there. So I will be in the comments more than normal for this video. I want to hear from you. Before you go, I want to say thank you to the people who gave me a lot of footage for this piece. I didn't go out into the desert and the ocean to film for this video. I got a lot of story blocks.
Story blocks. Okay. So that's his ad. And we're gonna end it there. That was very, very fascinating, like he said, because I'm just a curious person. wants to know whatever, right? And it's interesting. For me personally, I feel like it's a good move, right? It's a good move. Well, I don't know the detail, but looking at it from this perspective, it's really a smart move for the US, because it's like you're, in case something happens, you know, you have plans. I don't know how to say it anyways, but let me know, guys, do you agree or disagree? Is it a smart move for US, or is it just a waste of money? Let me know, for making all these military bases outside of the states. But let me know what you guys think for this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, leave in the comment section down below what other videos like to react to. The original link of this video will be in the description box down below, so also my social media links. So guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.